Hello, and welcome to Portrait per Telefon. How would you describe yourself? Who are you?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm ErichAviman. I was the former chairman of the Council of Ministers. So, yeah, done a lot of work over the years, but yeah, that's me.
ErichAviman, dear viewers, the former chairman of the Council of Ministers. Now, we have some submissions first before we open up to telephone questions.
Yep, ready to hear them.
In one moment. We will be starting with a question from Barbazoo, an officer of the Volkspolizei. What has been your favorite part of your career?
Yeah, well, oh, it's been a long time that I've been here, so, yeah, favorite part of my career. So, I guess I would say doing my little SED meetings has always been quite fun. I'm sure people will remember the times that I did those. So it's good fun to see everyone, to experience that. Especially, didn't have many of these kind of things. A lot of these things obviously made by us. It wasn't done by any DKK staff or anything like that. It was all pretty spontaneous stuff that I ran. So, I would say that's probably one of my fondest memories. But also making media, I mean, I'm sat here on this, but I've also been responsible for things like the news and the Schwarzer Kanal. That was something that I think a lot of people, especially here in the DDR, enjoyed. So no, I've been glad to be able to do quite a lot of things. But yeah, no, I did enjoy doing my little SED meetings. It was quite fun. So I guess I'd kind of say that, to be honest.
All right. Let me see. We have a submission from our comrades in the Soviet Union. How would the Republic work in order to improve cooperation and diplomatic relations with the Soviet Union, according to you?
Ooh, well, I mean, personally, obviously I'm no longer involved in diplomacy, but over the time that I presided over it, a lot of our stuff came from cooperation. So in terms of stuff like gala events, stuff like the exercises that we did with our joint military, stuff like that, it was great for military cooperation and things like that. So I would say that is probably would be my advice, is just keep going on events, because events have been the greatest thing. I think that obviously in recent times with more Western aggression as well, we've also done joint defense of the border. Not as great that we have to, but it is a fact. So, it's something which I'm conscious of. So, yeah, I don't know, just keep doing more events, I guess, would be my big solution to to diplomacy, because I think it also helps with visibility, because inevitably a bunch of people post pictures and people meet each other, and it's just a great time to get to know people. But I mean, yeah, that'd be my handle on diplomacy, to be honest.
Now, we do have, of course, the big question. Why have you resigned from your position as chairman of Council of Ministers?
Yeah, so quite interesting. So I mean, I have been quite busy over this past year doing a lot of real life stuff. So I'm currently in university. I've also been doing other stuff recently. So, I've been quite busy. So over this past kind of 10 months, 12 year, a year, there's been a bit of a step down in what I've been doing. I've been taking a more of a back seat. So, it's been the case where I've decided in recent times to stand down, to kind of, if it wasn't now, it would be in about a month or so that I would properly have to stand down. I would kind of need to continue with my studies. So just kind of real life scenarios. I mean, of course, there's always been disagreements with people in the DDR, but that isn't necessarily why I've decided to choose now to leave. It's just, unfortunately, it's a good time. What I have to do, but you know, I've been here for almost 2 years now. 2 years, so I've done quite a lot. I mean, in my resignation letter, I mentioned stuff like, you know, the Parliament, for example, the Volkskammer, the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, even finding that minister, getting media online, all this type of stuff. You know, I've done a lot of documents, all that type of stuff. It's just so much. I'm sure that Mr. ArdenKordenic could agree to that. But yeah, it's been a long time that I've been doing this. It's pretty wild to think that it'll have almost been 2 years, or already has. So, you know, yeah, but it's just, you know, real life kind of takes precedent, unfortunately. So, you know, I'll be sticking around and doing a bit more media stuff. You may see some more stuff come out, but apart from that, I'll be taking more of a backseat role whilst I focus on media primarily. But that'll be what I'll be handling from now on. So yeah.
There's a follow-up question to this. Are you going to be continuing to serve with the Polizei now that you've retired from more of your high-level positions?
Yeah, so I do intend to to continue it for at least a bit, whilst I'm still able to. That may change, but for now I will be continuing, and also properly reopening it to get some more people in. Now with the addition, of course, of citations and the look for batons to be on the way as well, it's definitely quite a good time to be in the police. So it's something that I'll definitely look to probably continue at least for a little bit. But yeah, I'll be sticking about for now in the police as well. But well, yeah.
Now we have a question directly from the General Secretary. He would like to
Oh,
know your
exciting.
opinion on your equivalents in the Soviet Union.
Yes, that would be James Cooper. So, I haven't talked to him much, to be quite honest. So, most of the diplomacy happens with more military staff. But I mean, we've talked very little actually. It's quite surprising, really, to many probably that fact. But last time I would have talked to him would have been just kind of in general chat in DKK. You know, it's not anything big. Unfortunately, due to age chat gates, I can't speak to him in game. So, you know, whilst I've seen him in game, I've not been able to talk to him. So there's been a bit of a problem there. But you know, I mean, it seems I think we had some differences when this whole DKK, the whole Afghanistan DV merger, new community stuff. I think there was some, you know, him being the previous DDR General Secretary, I think there was some, you know, I don't want to say rivalries, but you know, I think there was definitely some negativity. I think it's worn off a bit now. You know, I mean, we're both, you know, it's the USSR and the GDR. You know, we've done a lot together. Clearly, we've gone through exercises and events and all this stuff. You know, we wouldn't be doing this if we hated each other. So, you know, it's a case of I think it's kind of mellowed out over the time. But him personally, I've not had much experience. But hey, maybe now I will, but who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I I think he's probably a good person. I mean, obviously the USSR is still going strong, so you know he must be doing something right. So yeah, but I don't have much on a personal note, unfortunately.
Well, to follow up on that idea, I suppose I should ask, how do you feel about your equivalent in the Bundesrepublik?
Yeah, well, oh god, they have elections so often. Could you remind me who it is currently? Who's it back to?
You know, they have elections so often, I've actually forgot myself.
I think it could
There's nothing
be.
wrong with having elections so often, but of course, with them, it's less about that and more about the number of
I
resignations
mean,
they have.
I remember in the BRD, going back a few months now. So like, I remember we had just formalized. Obviously, this is stuff I wouldn't usually be talking about diplomacy, but I've resigned. I have my piece. Don't worry, it's nothing crazy. But without getting into specifics, there was a document, a piece of legislation, treaty, whatever you call it, that we agreed to, and we had this all kind of in place. You know, we were gonna get it through. It was gonna pass through our parliament, through their parliament. You know, and then I learned on like a dime that they've had an election. Oh, you know, they have like elections every few months. It's like crazy short times periods, and that kind of got shelved. I mean, it was then the infamous Afranius government, which obviously caused a lot of stuff. I actually learned in DKK general chat that Afranius tried to get Wheezy to open the border forcefully when we shut it because of them constantly raiding us. And we told them that we wouldn't open it again unless they stopped. And he tried to get admin intervention for that. So, you know, it's quite funny. So, you know, overall, Maximus was somebody that he was, unfortunately, before his lore death at least, he was very good to work with. Obviously, we know following, however, that there was a previously planned military operation against the Soviet Union, so, you know, I can't say much about him now. It was planned under his government before he was shot that they were going to raid the Soviet Union, so, you know, I don't think he's ever had any direct hatred against us, but, you know, for violating our territory, you know, you're not stupid, you know what that means. If you come into our back garden and begin shooting people and, you know, crossing our border illegally, it's like, you know, he would have known what that meant. So, you know, it's one of these things where, you know, the chancellors have always kind of been kind of dodgy people. I mean, going to presidents, I've mentioned here in the news in the Schwarzer Kanal about how the Terra Watch at the time was the federal president, and he was ready to defect to the United States of America, which is just wild to think about. You know, could you imagine like ArdenKordenic, for example, saying he's gonna like go and join the Soviet Union? Like, it's crazy. It's like, you know, like he's gonna run off and join another nation. It's just so wild to me.
It's almost unthinkable.
Yeah, it's just one of these things where I think that, you know, the BOD has always been very unstable. They try to claim otherwise and they blame it on external factors, but, you know, we take us for example, the DDR. So the BRD, from what I have always heard from other people, is that there is a case where the BRD just doesn't host anything. They don't host inspections. They don't host events. You know what I mean? They have like church interior as well. Like, they don't have any religious stuff going on, any cool little events, you know, civilian events that you could do in there, military inspection, all this stuff. They just don't do it. And, you know, they wonder why activity is so bad. It's like, you know, you got to start somewhere. You can't rely on admins to host events for you. You know, you're your own faction as well. You know, we've never relied on admins to host events for us. You know, we've of course gotten help with stuff like galas for the DDR, where we've had development help to have some stuff. But, you know, it's not like we're biased in that sense. The devs would do the same for the West. So, you know, it's a case of they kind of need to get off their backside and kind of, you know, pull themselves up by their boots a little and kind of stop moaning and kind of get on, because, you know, we didn't have a little moan about how horrible everything was and how, you know, foreign factions were all draining our members and that we're not going to do anything and not going to host any events or do anything, you know. But it's one of these things where the BRD just really needs to kind of take a look at itself and kind of figure out what does it want to do, because, you know, for the past, all the time that I've known it, they have not done any proper event stuff, you know. I saw the USA had inspections and everything, but the BRD never had anything like that. And, you know, they have people like the BKA and all that stuff, and, you know, counter-terrorists, and like they raid us and they shoot us, and it's like, Where's their military, huh? Why are you getting your little domestic police squads to do this? So, you know, it's like, I don't know, they just have an identity crisis, I think. I think Afranius made it worse. Apparently there's a lot of laws introduced under him that were not great. So it's one of these things where it's like, you know, I think that he's yeah, the BRD just kind of needs to take a look at itself. But yeah, sorry, a bit long-winded, but but yeah.
Well, after all, the capitalists love to say that people should pull themselves up by their bootstraps, yet they aren't doing it for themselves.
Yeah, quite.
Well, I think we have about enough time to call upon the live questions from the telephone.
Great.
Would you
Let's
like to hear them?
Let's see if is there anyone
Right,
who wants
let's take
to.
a look. Uh, Sorry, this is taking one moment. We have a question on what duties are you still performing now that you've resigned from CCOM?
Yeah, so right now I'm just kind of focusing more on media nowadays. I spoke a little bit about that, but more in detail, that's going to be things like newspaper, radio. I'm sure people are familiar. If not, if you're from the Soviet Union watching this into Sputnik, if you react to the role in the Warsaw Treaty thing, you'll get pings when radio stuff and all that happens. I recommend it. I'm totally not biased, but you know, I think a lot of people have had fun there. We usually get about 20-ish people on a good day of me hosting, so you know, it's one of these things where if you're interested in that, then go to the Warsaw Treaty server and react with the Into Sputnik role, and you'll get notified of every time I make a radio broadcast. But I mean, in terms of media, I think I'm also going to be continuing, obviously, with newspapers. There's actually one in development right now, so that's being worked on. Television as well is something that I'm gonna continue to work on. So, you know, stuff like this, interviews, news media, hopefully. The Schwarzer Canal, a bit more difficult. It's been discontinued for now because the West doesn't want to make their own news, which is fun. But I got told ages ago by someone who was in the West, and they said they had a whole team behind them. They had a whole team behind them, and they were gonna have a news thing for me to look at, and it never materialized. So you know, ever since Fletcher kind of left them, they've not had any news. So it's kind of, you know, it's a program which relies on their news, because the whole idea is debunking their news, you know. So unfortunately, we can't do anything like that for now. But I'm hoping this interview thing will go more mainstream. Hoping to hear a lot of I'm hoping to have more interviews coming up. I think that's quite fun. You know, I mean, it's always fun to have some interviews, one-on-ones. So, you know, also hear other people's side of things. But, you know, it's, yeah. Oh, also, I will plug this. Anybody who's interested in chess, I am probably going to look to restart chess, because for those who are really old school and remember Aufstand, we did have chess for a little bit. And there was a program that was dedicated to chess, so that'll come, or well, to sports in general, but for now it'd be just chess. But I would be looking to revive that media program and chess in general, so if anybody is a cool chess player who loves chess, I'd certainly love the USSR and the DDR to have chess competitions. I think that'd be really cool. And another event, like I talked about, to kind of, you know, strengthen our bonds. I am open to an international tournament as well. I think that'd be great fun if the BRD joined in with the USSR and the DDR, you know. I think that would be really fun. It's also another prestige thing, you know, showing who's really good at sports. So yeah. Um yeah.
Uh, the General Secretary is calling, and he wants to know when you'll return his desk ornaments.
Yeah, so I've actually yeah, it's a really good question, and you know, there's a lot of answers that I could give, but you know, I just want to say that you know he's a great man, and I've worked with him for you know almost 2 years now, so you know it's been a lot of things that I've taken from him in terms of wisdom, you know, and guidance, not physical objects, of course, but you know, one of my favorite desk ornaments, I mean, memories would have been, you know, when I got to move up from the Minister of Culture to Chairman of the Council of Ministers. I did argue quite a bit about that back then. You know, there was things like, "Where's my desk ornaments?" and you know, stuff like that. But you know, I think he gave in by the time that you know he realized that you know we really needed someone to kind of glue stuff together. So you know, I was very happy to take on that role.
I apologize for having some interference on the line. Um, Here we go. We do have another question. Uh, it's on the Western operation that occurred a short time ago when the Hartman administration, Deb Hartman took the chancellery in
Yeah.
the wake of the murder of the previous chancellor, Maximus. This operation was allegedly planned by the Maximus chancellery. What do you think of that situation?
So I assume this is relating to the Soviet Union thing. Is this
Yes.
that one? Yeah. So I spoke a little about this just a minute ago, but yeah, I think that you know it's one of these things where you know I considered him to be a good person, and then this stuff happened, so you know it kind of shook my beliefs a little because you know up until then, I mean, we'd helped him previously. I mean, you remember the USA? The USA was refusing to transfer criminals back to the BRD, and so the BRD requested our assistance to enter their territory and to surround the USA base and to help them with trying to retrieve these criminals. So, you know, it's one of these cases where, you know, when someone relies so much on us that to pull that and to infringe on our sovereignty and our territory, it's just very disappointing, honestly. I mean, obviously, he got shot in lore, so, you know, it's all happened, but it's one of these things where I don't really understand. It was just a bit weird. I don't know the motive. All I really understood is that they didn't like the Soviet Union very much, but apart from that, to go and invade us and to then shoot them, yeah, it's just yeah, it's just one of these things where you clearly see that the BRD is a bit disorganized and they don't really know what they want. So it's just you know yeah, who knows what they think. I'm not a mind reader, but yeah, it was very disappointing, to be honest. Very disappointing for what happened. And I know that Dev is now taken over, and I believe that peace is coming back. And I just hope that that prevails because you know people are getting sick of shooting. So yeah, let's just hope that this stops. Honestly.
Well, this could be considered a controversial question. Um, this individual online is asking if you support a two-state solution.
uh, yeah. So I won't comment on any specifics, but yeah, no, I'm not going to comment.
We have another question. Do you listen to Western music, such as Pink Floyd?
I mean, see, we have great artists here in the East, so for everything, I mean, there's plenty of musicians that have been here for a long time. So in terms of Western music, it's one of these things. We obviously, before this whole situation, Germany in general, we obviously had a lot of musicians, classical musicians. So whether we count someone like an influential German classical musician as someone who was in the quote West, it's one of these things where I like to think of music as German music more than anything.
We have another question regarding, do you, Camerman, receive Westpack, as in parcels from the West, from any relatives
Versus
you
the
have?
West, I'm afraid that it's actually a funny story. So I actually if you give me 2 seconds to recollect my memories. So I was born roughly 1911ish. So I grew up in a working class family. So my older brother, he served in the Great War. He got involved in the KPD. I joined myself, age 18, and even with the Great Crash, I further dedicated my life to the party. Even as far as going to fight in the Spanish Civil War and eventually go towards the USSR. So, my family has always been in the East, so I don't have Western relatives, But I have a long, proud history of serving in the East, whether that is through military means or through civil means. So, yeah.
We have another question. Will you be participating in university debates traveling around the country now that you are retired from CCON?
Yeah, so that's quite it's quite interesting. Uh, I'd love to go around talking to people. I think that there's a lot of opinions which you need to hear them, to fully understand where you sit on a situation. And I think it's always something that I'm always happy to be a public figure and to speak about things. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's if I was invited, sure, but I'm not gonna impose myself. It'll only be if people are interested. But yeah, it seems it's half five now, at least for me.
We have another question from a member of the military. Uh, do you believe that the border must be reinforced in the wake of recent Western attacks?
I mean, we already have it's a hilarious story actually. The West, you see that you recently put in concrete barricade things. They complain to us. They say, our defenses. They say this is from them. They say our defenses are terrible. They're the worst. We need better defenses because these just aren't great. They're the worst. And you look at them, and it's like the so-called, we're defending our border, right? I am really happy that the West has suddenly realized, it's a great idea to have fortifications such as the wall, which they claim that, is not a great idea. So, I mean, it's one of these things where it's quite ironic, really, because, the West will argue against the things such as the German border and our anti-fascist rampart protection wall. But they also try to get their own now, it seems. So it's one of these really funny things. It shows the duality of the Western mindset. It's a real funny situation there. But I'm glad that they recognize the importance of security. So I'd wish they'd stop criticizing us, because clearly we figured this solution out quite a long time ago. And I am sure that if these situations continue, like Western raids, etc., I'm sure that even in 50 or 100 years, that wall will still be standing if these situations continue to be the same.
We have just a couple more time for just a couple more questions. Do you support women's and queer liberation movements within Marxist-Leninist ideology?
Oh boy. As long as everything stays within, the framework of the Constitution, obviously we've always been a great proponent of rights, including women's rights. I mean, we look at the Western militaries, they don't allow women to serve, except in very menial roles. We allow women to serve. The idea that a woman works is also, it's quite ingrained in our society. So, we've always been very progressive, I think.
And how do you feel about the celebrations for the 750th anniversary of Berlin coming up next year?
Well, I mean, it's a whole year now, so, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. 750 years. Wow. It's pretty crazy, but it is our capital, so it is going to be some wild celebrations, and I hope I am around, and I hope DKK is around for it, because it'll be a wild show, I'm sure.
All right. Well, we seem to be running out of time for this program. I believe we will close off the questions there. We will now be moving on to having you to sign our wall.
Yeah, okay, I'll just hop out of my seat 1 second. Give me a second. Going down seats. Yeah. Let me come back up here. Okay, so you want me to grab this this pen here? The pen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. If you give me 2 seconds. Okay, and I'll sign it here then, I guess. Okay, I guess that's everything, huh?
Yes, that was everything for today on Portrait per Telefon.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And thank you for being on our show. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, everyone. Have a good night.